So ladies and gentlemen, at TED we talk a lot about leadership and how to make a movement. So let's watch a movement happen, start to finish, in under 3 minutes and dissect some lessons from it. First, of course you know, a leader needs the guts to stand out and be ridiculed. But what he's doing is so easy to follow. So here's his first follower with a crucial role. He's going to show everyone else how to follow. Now notice that the leader embraces him as an equal. So now it's not about the leader anymore, it's about them, plural. Now there he is calling to his friends. Now if you notice that the first follower is actually an underestimated form of leadership in itself. It takes guts to stand out like that. The first follower is what transforms a lone nut into a leader. And here comes a second follower. Now it's not a lone nut, it's not two nuts, 3 is a crowd, and a crowd is news. So a movement must be public. It's important to show not just the leader, but the followers, because you find that new followers emulate the followers, not the leader. Now here come 2 more people, and immediately after, 3 more people. Now we've got momentum. This is the tipping point. Now we've got a movement. So, notice that as more people join in, it's less risky. So those that were sitting on the fence before now have no reason not to. They won't stand out, they won't be ridiculed, but they will be part of the in crowd if they hurry. So, over the next minute, you'll see all of the those that prefer to stick with the crowd, because eventually they would be ridiculed for not joining in. And that's how you make a movement.
Hey, welcome. This is the recap from this past weekend, week 2, the heart of a leader. Now, we've been talking about leadership for the past 2 weeks, and I know that some of you see that you are leaders. You head up a ministry, or you lead a life group, or maybe you supervise a whole bunch of people at work. But there's another group of you out there that, well, you're kind of stepping back and you're thinking, well, this is all good stuff, but I'm really not a leader. I don't even want to be a leader. You see yourself more as a supporting player. You help the leader, and you know what? You're really kind of fine with that. And you know what? Truthfully, I was that guy. I was the guy up in the sound booth. I was the guy that the ushers would call when the toilets needed to get unplugged. I was the guy making the coffee in the background. And I liked it that way. And then I realized that no matter what I'm doing, I'm leading someone. Serving others is a way of leading others because my example, my interactions, my responses, my conversations, all have the power to influence other people. The big idea this week is that the condition of my heart shapes my ego. Our egos, the way we view what we do, the way we view who we are, influences the way we lead. We are either edging God out of our leadership roles, or we are using our leadership roles to exalt God only. Is your leadership, is your service for you or for God? The minute we start getting judgmental about others and the way they do things, the minute we get mad at God because He isn't using us the way we think we should be used, the minute we get frustrated because God is changing things up and it doesn't work the way we think, we've crossed into very, very dangerous territory. You see, a judgmental heart, that edges God out. We need to continually reflect on the condition of our ego, looking for the places where we've edged God out. We need to continually challenge ourselves and the people in our life group. You see, a faithful heart, that exalts God only. As a group, now I want you to take some time to answer the following questions. As you think about this discussion, leadership and ego, consider, is there a time in your life where you see that you've edged God out? And how did you get your focus back to exalt God only?
Well, it's great to be back for the second week of our series together. And last week we kicked things off by discussing what leadership actually means and discussed how Jesus led during his public ministry. And we also discussed the value of two very important questions. The first one is, whose am I? In other words, who am I trying to please? You see, oftentimes leaders fall into a trap when answering who they are. They believe that they can measure their success in power and performance and position rather than pleasing and serving God. And then the second question is, who am I? Which deals with really my life purpose. And this centers around what God wants to accomplish and really do in and through my surrendered and transformed life. And this week, we're going to pick up where we left off and discuss what Lead Like Jesus calls the transformational leadership cycle. Last week, we discussed the first component of the cycle, which is personal leadership. Now, this is the idea that you must be able to lead yourself before you can effectively lead others. So let's take a moment to break down the transformational leadership cycle. I see this as more of a kind of a leadership journey, because any person who applies this is not going to do it perfectly each time. None of us will. So anytime people are involved, there's always going to be imperfection. And we need to be aware of that so that any one of us can move through this cycle if grace and humility are actually applied and lived out. So since you've already touched upon the first station of the cycle, let's look at a verse that supports the idea of transformation. In Matthew 4:19 through 20, some of you will remember that this is when Jesus asks Peter and Andrew to follow him and that Jesus would actually make them fishers of men. And they gave up everything and were transformed in everything that they did as a result of this. Next is the second station. This is one-on-one leadership. The outcome of successful one-on-one leadership is actually trust. And in Matthew 4:22 through 32, it's a classic account of trust when Peter has an opportunity to walk across the water to Jesus, one of my favorite stories. But since Peter could not sustain trust in Jesus, he starts to sink. And this is a reminder of what happens when we take our eyes off of Jesus and fear the areas of our life that he actually holds together. And then next is team or family leadership station, which produces the outcome of community. And I really like that this model includes family because it's a reminder that we're supposed to lead like Jesus in every aspect of our lives. In John 13:13 through 17, it describes Jesus' dialogue with the disciples after he washes their feet, asking them to do the same. And this reminds me of a mantra that we have in all of our teams together here at Newbreak. I don't get to do what I want to do. I get to do what we want to do. And this is at the heart of life groups and why life groups are an essential part of life here at Newbreak. And the last part of the cycle is organizational or community leadership, where the result is seen in unity and effectiveness. And in John 17:20 through 23, we see how important this was to Jesus and how he has empowered us to change organizations and communities for his name's sake. And this is a great example of Jesus preparing the disciples to continue the movement that occurred after his actual death and then his resurrection. Now, I think this is a good time to stop and discuss this concept. So in your group, discuss the following question. What are two of the three things that you do to build trust with others? And try and be as practical as possible. And what are 2 to 3 things you do to sometimes jeopardize trust with others? You know, so much of our relationships with others and our leadership is based on our ability to trust others. Now we're going to start to explore the 4 domains of lead like Jesus. And the first domain is really perhaps one of the most important, and it's the heart. The heart is the intention and motivation of a leader. It's why you lead. Author John Maxwell says it like this: when you find your why, you find your way. And I thought that was a great way to communicate the importance and the significance of the heart. So before we go any further, I want the group to look through the following 5 passages. And these passages are amazing. So take the next couple of minutes and read each one of the following scriptures, and then discuss your observations of these passages, mentioning the heart. The first one's Ezekiel 36:26-7, Proverbs 4:23, and then Psalms 73:26. One of the verses that we just reviewed was Proverbs 4:23, which says, "Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it." And this amazing verse reveals an important truth that you and I must be super cautious about: the matters of the heart. And during the rest of our time together today, we're going to be discussing what happens when you and I forget whose we are and who we are. And this heart issue is what Blanchard calls having an ego problem, or edging God out. And he describes edging out as, whom I worship, and edging God out as my source of security and self-worth, and edging God out as my audience and my ultimate authority and my judge. And this is what causes two primary characteristics: pride and fear. And pride, as it's defined, is an overly high opinion of yourself, exaggerated esteem of myself, and arrogance, really. And this appears when someone is self-promoting and boastful and taking all the credit and showing off and does all the talking and is demanding all the attention. And then there's fear, the other major characteristic of edging God out. And that's an insecure view of the future, which produces a kind of self-protection. And this appears in the form of hiding behind our positions and withholding information, maybe intimidating others. And edging God out always results in three things: it separates, it compares, and it distorts. And this is the modality of a self-serving leader, not a servant leader. Replacing God with lesser gods, idols, or things is usually not a planned decision. It happens when our fallen nature goes unchecked and becomes self-serving. So what are some of the things or areas of life that you have put before God or are wrestling with now? Now, what are the dangers for a leader who leads out of fear or pride? And how might this affect an employee in the workplace, or a children's relationship with a parent, or an adult's friendships in a community? When we edge God out, we truly reveal the brokenness of our hearts, don't we? But don't lose hope, because next week we're going to look at what happens when our egos are really surrendered over to God and what that actually looks like. And when our egos are surrendered, then we move out of edging God out to exalting God only. Now, until we meet again, I want to have our facilitators split you guys into groups of 2 or 3, guys with guys and gals with gals, and then pray, through the prayer requests of the areas that have sort of surfaced and been revealed during the study. Now, I look forward to seeing all of you guys next week.